Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of Visionary Talks by Governance Now. This is Kailashnath, Adhikari, Managing Director, Governance Now, and it is my extreme proud privilege today that I am being joined by none other than Shri Sanjay Hegde ji, Senior Advocate. Thank you so much, Sanjay ji, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kailash.
So my first question to you, we all know about and we have seen the hijab controversy, taking place over a period of time, especially in the state of Karnataka. Do you feel that there was a need to give this a communal angle?
Well, there was no need to give it a communal angle. But yes, wearing a hijab among some sections of Muslim girls they feel it is an expression of their faith and is part of their conscience more than faith. See, there are two things. One is that there may be certain requirements in your faith. You follow it, or when you don't follow it, maybe your conscience might say, no, you ought to. Please take this thing of the hijab aside. In Islam, for instance, people are not supposed to drink.
Yes.
But we all have Muslim friends who do drink.
Yeah.
We all of them. We have many, some who drink, some who don't drink. So each one is then answerable to his particular conscience in that sense. You can't force somebody to drink. That would be absolutely wrong. Equally, here if somebody says, a woman says of her conscience, that this is the level of modesty that I want to be at. I want to cover my head. I don't think there is anything which a government should be bothered with. A government cannot say that, look, you wear something on your head, you will not be educated, not at government expense. That's where the problem is.
No, but Sanjay, if we take the fact that if an institution, since this happened with regards to an education institution, they say that, for us, students are equal. Absolutely. There's no discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, gender, religion. And we would like our students to come in a common uniform. And that uniform does not have an hijab. What's the issue?
Okay. Now let me put it this way. If that institution was a private institution and said that our uniform for girls is a mini skirt and for boys is a khaki knicker. Now, either you take it or you leave it. Fine. There's no problem on that. But supposing it was a government institution, a government is funded by taxpayers' money from all communities.
Absolutely.
If you make it, that same institution says, look, in my uniform there is no Sikh turban. You will not wear a Hindu kaleva. If you are on a vrat going to the Ayyappa temple, you're a male observing a vrat before you go to the Ayyappa temple. You will not. You will come only in uniform, and you will not be allowed to wear that black dhoti, which is required. So then comes the question of reasonable accommodation. Should a government have its priority as to enforcing a uniformity in a diverse country, even at the cost of sacrificing education? Supposing a girl says that on these, or a boy says on these conditions, I don't want government education. Now, what is better? Is it better to say, okay, we will not sort of interfere with your conscience, but please come to school? It is better to have somebody who is an educated female who will then mother the next generations. rather than somebody who says, okay, I will go only to then I will, you are forcing me to go to my community institutions, which follow that code. And I will have a much more restricted education. As a wise government, tell me what is a better choice?
No, but Sanjay, the issue is, let's say if today a particular government which did this, they allow hijab. Now, I am putting a very straightforward point and trying to understand that tomorrow, if a son or daughter of an Hindu priest, he comes and tells that this is a part of my faith, I'll only wear a dhoti, I'll only wear a khas, nothing else. Then every person will do their own thing. Then where is the school uniform? Because school is an
first and foremost, listen. Why do you need school uniforms? Just tell me, what reason do you have for school uniforms? Schools, I understand. You know, when their kids are in a nursery school or kids are up to school, they should not be lost somewhere. They should be easily identifiable. That there is some sense. Here we are talking of young adults in the 11th, 12th, on to graduate colleges. In my time, in the same place, in Udupi itself, we never had uniforms. This kind of thing, this uniform business came about not through any legislation. They came about only because some fellow said that, you know, otherwise there will be fashion shows, the richer kids will look richer, this, that, and the other. With the uniforms are about discipline, this, that, and that was the thing.
And they are about, I mean, uniforms are about discipline.
No, sorry. You have no idea of education if you think that is paramount. If a young mind can't question, if a young mind is to be indoctrinated, regimented, and said uniform and uniform alone, people will just drop out. People will just drop out. You, as a government, decide what do you want to do. Are you running a military training school? Are you running a police school? Do it.
But here we are. I understood your point, sir. But here we are, you know, trying to question the entire legitimacy of a school uniform, which all schools
exactly. Now, if one side takes an extremist view, the other side can equally well take an extremist view. Children can say, we don't need no education, we don't need no school, no false sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave them kids alone.
Do you think that such a thing can lead to that? Such extremism?
Let us see if young people are thinking people and want to be thinking people. That stage might also come.
I mean, God knows, that's a very extremist state. But Behral.
No, exactly. That is where you need reasonable accommodation. You can't run everything by the danda in this country, and not with the young. And when somebody takes a stand based upon conscience, you have to see whether you can accommodate that conscience, or whether you decide that, okay, we will shut down the business itself. You remember, just a minute.
Sure.
You remember the film Chariots of Fire? In Chariots of Fire, there was this British athlete who was a God-fearing man and who said, I cannot do work on Sunday, which is the Sabbath. I will not run for an Olympic gold medal. At which point of time, then somebody in this team exchanged places with him for another race, which was not held on a Sunday. He won that race, and the teammate won this one. If you are going to make it about force, there will be resistance. And then if you think you can ensure that governance runs on force, good luck to you.
No, but the government is not saying that don't wear a hijab altogether. It is just saying that in a school where everyone needs to be dressed equally and in the similar fashion, don't wear a hijab there. In your personal life, wear a hijab. That's the problem.
It's not the government's place to tell me what my religion should be. Now let's take another or what
Yeah,
my
that is what
religious
the government is not telling not to wear a hijab outside school.
Just 1 minute, Kailash.
Sure, sure.
Let's take another government.
Hmm.
An Ambedkarite government which says that any sign of asserting superiority shall be banned. Supposing the Brahmin sacred thread was banned. It is not part of the uniform and we will not allow it. Do you think that would be right? Once you start going down that road, there are several dangers.
Now, Sanjay ji, talking about the bulldozer recently, which raised illegal construction in a city in Uttar Pradesh. Again, that activity got communal color. Do you feel that the opposition is unnecessarily communalizing all actions for their own political benefit?
No, sir. No, sir. It is the government which is communalizing the bulldozer. Says these are all extremists. I don't like them. I'm going to bulldoze them. They in Uttar Pradesh even today, I believe that the people who did not who went away from the BJP and joined another party had bulldozers at their house. But let's not talk communal first. Okay, you started with people you don't like. Sanjeev Bhatt's house got bulldozed. There were several. Atiq Ahmed in Uttar Pradesh, his house got bulldozed. There were several bulldozers used in various places. But what happened in Khadgaon, and then which was sought to be followed elsewhere, was the doctrine of collective punishment. In this area, there are these kind of people. They are all illegals anyway. They have no right to be in this country, and therefore, and their houses are anyway illegal, and I'm going to bulldoze it. Even if you want to bulldoze something, there is a procedure. If there is the rule of law, even Ajmal Kasab was not hung without the rule of law. And when this bulldozer went unguarded all over, the person I remembered most was a fellow called Tukaram Ombale. Do you remember him? As a Bombayite, yes, he was the Bombay policeman who on 26/11, when Kasab was going berserk and he had finally run out of ammunition, and when others were planning to shoot Kasab, he said, "No, hold on," and he took a bullet. But because of him, Kasab was captured alive and tried. And as a consequence, we could show the world what exactly the conspiracy was from Pakistan. We had a whole trial, and ultimately Kasab met his just deserts. That is the rule of law. Now what you have is the law of the rulers. I don't like X. I don't like X type of people. I don't like X area. This is all illegal. And my bulldozer is the only legal thing that goes on. And then irrespective of whether a court says, no, stop the bulldozer, or no, give me a written order, it doesn't matter if it's all carried by all the media. I am going to go ahead with my bulldozer as long as I can.
Honorable Supreme Court has put a status quo for 2 weeks.
That is great disrespect to the Supreme Court and the rule of law.
And as such, Honorable Supreme Court has given a 2-week status quo.
Currently, there is a status quo till the matter is heard again. The matter is expected to be heard after 2 weeks.
Now, recently, a Maulana by the name Tauqir Raza said that India will witness a Mahabharat. How right is this to say in a civilized society as ours?
You ask the Maulana. I don't answer for idiots on either side.
Sure. Now, Sanjay ji, you are a renowned advocate. You have handled high-profile cases. The media has spotlight on it. How do you deal with, expectation pressures that come along with such cases?
Listen, I mean, if you go by expectations, you'll freeze. You only do your best, give it your best every time, and then forget about the matter after the matter is over. There is no other way to do it. I sometimes think that, lawyers in the last court or surgeons in an operation theater, they do something similar. You look not at whether the client or the patient is a good man or a bad man or anything. You just look at the problem. You just look at trying to sort it out in the best possible way for the client or the patient. And most of the time when it comes to you, the case is critical and almost beyond repair. You do your best, hope for the best. The result is not always in your hands. So you can't overthink in advance.
Sure. Sanjay, nowadays, many a times in the social media age that we live in, lawyers, senior advocates are trolled, for taking up cases where public sympathy is the least. How does the profession then deal with this?
The profession has to ignore it. It's very simple. See, like the Supreme Court appointed me as amicus curiae in the Nirbhaya case. I had to argue for those people who were accused. I mean, even me, there were other lawyers in my team. All our families said, "What are you doing? Why can't you say no?" But that is exactly what the rule of law requires. That even in the worst of cases, you have to put in the best of defenses, knowing fully well that you are not the decision maker. The decision maker is the judge. And the judge also knows that when somebody has put in his or her best efforts, then everything that could be said for the accused or for the unpopular side has been said, considered legally, and dealt with legally. So being trolled doesn't really affect me. Of course, sometimes it gets personal even to families.
Yeah.
That time you sometimes get worried, but you can't really let it affect you. On a side note, let me tell you a story from the profession. In an excise matter in the Calcutta High Court, a difference between skin and height. It was a classification question. So the judge finally lost it and asked the lawyer, "Mr. So-and-so, what is the difference, skin and height?" He said, "When I was a young lawyer, my lords, I had skin. Now I have height." We develop a thick height.
True. Now, in the light of a recent past high-profile matter involving son of a Bollywood celebrity, do you feel that celebrities, when they are caught in a legal soup, they are more vulnerable to harsh judgments vis-a-vis a common man who would probably gain more sympathy from the honorable courts?
Let's put it this way: not only celebrities, rich people, this, that, and the other, are unlikely to get relief in the first instance. Be it the policeman who makes the arrest, be it the magistrate or the judge who has to deal with the remand and the bail applications in the first instance. They are unlikely to extend relief simply because otherwise somebody might say, he has been influenced or he's been bought over. So they prefer to send the matter upwards to the high courts and all that, where judges don't have those bothers because they can't be removed from their office summarily, nor they have constitutional protection. They can only be impeached. So it's like saying, "No, this one is beyond my pay grade. Let higher bosses deal with it."
So they're naturally influential people, they don't have that kind of advantage there. So
it remains to be a slight disadvantage, but then the influential person is much more likely to get in the higher courts. Much more likely to have good lawyers, vigorous lawyers whose cases can be heard faster. Happens. Sometimes you see when some lawyers turn up, judges say, "Okay, yeah," rather than saying no, it's better to just hear it and finish off the matter. That also happens.
That also. Face value matter.
Whereas a poor person is much more likely to find out, or if my uncle's third cousin, he became a lawyer, what happened to him, go to him and this and that person may or may not be practicing in the correct court, may not know the procedure. So
it's a balance.
So that way, I don't say it balances out, but this is the situation for the rich. This is the situation for those who are not rich.
Sure. Now, it was often said, Sanjay ji, that the law profession is recession proof. Do you agree? Or has the pandemic made people realize otherwise?
No, the law profession is not recession proof. A major proportion of courtroom lawyers are always in recession because not many people come to them. You may look at the rich or the successful lawyers, but the average lawyer barely makes a living, many of them, right? So
as we see,
as far as they are concerned, they're almost permanently in recession. Now, as far as those who are making money are concerned, again, it's also a question of what kind of practice it is. Supposing you were in one particular branch of tax law, say your sales tax and things like that. But then sales tax gets abolished, everything becomes GST. Now, unless you switch over there, you are going to go into a recession. So there is the legal profession has its own gaps of recession.
Sure. Now, Sanjay ji, a lot is always said about the human resource crunch in the Indian judiciary, which leads to delay, in delivering justice. What step would you suggest to ramp up the infrastructure of the Indian courts?
In a developed society, in the US and all that, they have about 100 judges per million. India for a long time had only 10 judges per million population. It was after a lot of pressure from the Supreme Court and all that it has come to about 15 per million. Now, even the US, not every matter goes to court. Most matters end up in, if it's a criminal matter, it ends up in a plea bargain where the defendant pleads guilty to a lesser crime, undergoes a shorter sentence, and the prosecution then also doesn't have to go into a trial. So both sides are served that way. Societal interest is served. Or in a civil matter, both sides know what the strength of each other's case is. They make an assessment and they say that, if you go to trial and we lose and we have to pay the other side's costs, it will cost this much. So, and if one of them is a big corporation, they'll say, oh, our lawyers are going to cost this much. It is better we pay a percentage of it to the other side and settle the matter. So both the situation out in developed societies is more towards outcomes. Whereas in India, what often happens is the government is the biggest litigant. And it's often government departments which are fighting each other. There is no one in the government who wants to take a decision. Sometimes governments deliberately tell people, oh, your bill is so much, etc., etc. If I pass it, there may be an inquiry 5 years later. So I will not pass it. You go to court and get me an order so that I can comply. There's so many things like that. And each and every matter, people just keep on getting into process more and more. And the judge has 100, 200 matters a day to finish off. He can't humanly do it. There have been times in the lower courts of Delhi that I've seen where a judge is hearing final arguments in one matter. Evidence in a second matter is being simultaneously recorded by the reader. And in the third matter, he is dictating judgment. Despite all that, processes go. So what we really need is A, you need to ramp up the number of judges. B, you need to make your systems such that they are tuned towards a final outcome in the matter, not in further steps in the process. Then if you get into steps in the process and go on, then it becomes Tariq pe Tariq. So these are things which really require thinking and a change in attitudes all over. One more thing which often happens is that we were talking about how some the trial courts and all that are hesitant to pass orders, say, above my pay grade, send it upwards. That should not be the situation. If a judge rules one way, he should not necessarily be second guessed as having an oblique motive. There is an atmosphere of distrust also between the courts of first instance and the appellate court. And so often when I practice in an appellate court, the Supreme Court is the ultimate appellate court. You often say, oh, acha, this court, oh, this judge, acha. Okay. Sometimes that itself influences.
True. Now, towards my last question, the pandemic saw the Indian judiciary adopt to the e-courts system. Do you believe that the e-courts were able to facilitate justice better as compared to a physical court?
See, it's not a straight answer here, because the e-courts ran on platforms which were not necessarily made for court systems. Now, they adapted WebEx, Blue Jeans, Jitsi, this, that, and the other. Hearings in short matters, I think were not very satisfactory on the system, because what used to happen is all of us were very apprehensive about our electricity, our internet going off and all that. And so the lawyer was anxious to say his piece. The judge was anxious to say his piece. And then, okay, and finish. And once the judge said, next matter, you got muted. And you could not make a judge take a second look at things. Whereas in a physical court, even after the judge indicates that, I don't think there's much in the matter, a lawyer has a chance of insisting. So for all these non-verbal and other communications, e-courts were not that good. But for longer matters, for longer constitutional matters, where people were wanted to hear the argument, listen out, and then even if something went wrong, it could be easily retrieved. So yes, e-courts were better than having no courts.
Justice could not be.
But e-courts are also there to stay, I think.
Yes.
There have been several changes. Many people have liked it. And I also think that for big constitutional matters, which are long and continuous, then e-courts are good. For instance, I argued the hijab matter sitting in Delhi. And a lot of people asked how girls out there could afford it. Girls out there could afford it because I was giving off my time. I was appearing pro bono. But even if I was appearing pro bono and I had to physically go to Bangalore, that may not have been possible. Nobody could have paid for my fare, my hotel, and this and that. Right? That too would have come to a substantial amount for this. But so in that way, certain access to justice or access to lawyers all over the country, that has become easier to a great extent. So there is much to be said on both sides. I think there is going to be a hybrid system which will continue now.
Sure. With that, Sanjay, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Visionary Talks by Governance Now. It was a complete pleasure having you over today and discussing a wide variety of issues. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Kailash. Bye.
Thank you.